By the time you look mid into 2027, 2028, I don't think the sport of boxing is going to look anything like it looks like today.
No, I can agree with all of your points there. And I think, as somewhat of a bit of a traditionalist myself, I think we've had the legacies in there, like the Frank Warrens in boxing, for example, the Eddie Hearns, and what the UFC have done and what they've always done so well is the marketing side of things. All of the like mini documentaries before the big events, all the real shows, they've done a fantastic job of marketing it. And I guess it's made it very enticing, and even a big UK audience. MMA wasn't so big in the UK when I was like a teenager, which wasn't too long ago, but now, yeah, it's absolutely massive. But I think what's really interesting, like you say, none of us are going to know how it will look next year, but especially over the last week, Conor Benn, for example, is like the biggest news moving to Zuffa. I think that's would have been unheard of. No one would have expected that coming.
That was probably the most bizarre and unlikely signing for me that Zuffa could have made, pretty much on a global scale. When you've got the finances Zuffa have got, and Zuffa Boxing is 40% TKO, which is UFC, WWE combined, absolutely the powerhouses of live sports entertainment on a global scale. But it's 60% owned by Seller, which is obviously tied into Saudi Arabia. So when you look at the amount of money that's involved in that brand alone, Zuffa Boxing, it blows every other type of live sports entertainment out of the water combined. Every other promoter on the planet combined can't touch the kind of finances they have. So nobody felt untouchable. Obviously, there was a relationship. The reason I say Conor Benn was so unlikely is that the relationship he had with Eddie Hearn seemed locked in. Conor Benn failed 2 drug tests, and Eddie Hearn went to bat for him, stood on the top of a hill for him, took bullets for him, dragged his own reputation through the mud for Conor Benn. So for Conor Benn to almost turn around and bite the hand that feeds him felt incredibly unlikely as much as it did uncomfortable. But then you have to come back to the fact that this is prize fighting, you know, and promoters, every promoter, not just Eddie Hearn, have all got their fair share of stories where they've had a fighter, they've built him up, he's lost the fight, and they just cast him aside, bin him. He's no good to me now, gone. Back down to the lower levels, who's next? So that ruthlessness that all promoters have shown over the decades of business they've operated, to see a fighter be equally ruthless in return, while it, because of their history, felt a little bit uncomfortable, it shouldn't be seen as unlikely either. At the end of the day, every fighter has to look after themselves because every promoter looks after themselves. So wherever the biggest paycheck is, go for it. Again, this is prize fighting. You're putting your life on the line every time you step in that ring or cage. So go wherever you can to get the biggest payday, to move forward with your career, to define your own legacy, and to ensure that you earn generational wealth. Don't get me wrong, Conor's probably got generational wealth. He was a very rich young man growing up because of his father and the money his father made, but he's plowing his own way. And I think also the connection with America, the fact that he can be sold to an American audience, something his dad probably didn't really do over the course of his career. I'm sure that was an attraction to Conor Benn as well. But you're right. Now that's happened, Charlie, now that signing has been made by Zuffa, there is not a single fighter on the planet that they cannot reach out to, that they cannot sign.
No, that's it. And that's just, I noticed in Eddie's interviews, I love Eddie Hearn, he's a legend of the game. But I noticed in his interviews, he's repeating a lot at the moment. I think Joshua's on a career-long contract, and I hear him say it a few more times, but it's, when you've got the money these Saudis and the US have, does that really matter? I don't know. But one thing I found really interesting about what you said there was Conor can make a mark in the US. And when Anthony fought Jake Paul, at the end of last year, what really surprised me was I was following the commentary about how no one in the US really knew him, Anthony Joshua. And to me, that was fascinating because I guess in our eyes, as in the UK, we think of him as one of the biggest stars in the world. But yeah, it's just a completely new land of opportunity.